Hello, everybody. Welcome to Why Community Matters webinar series, the coming battle between crypto and FAMGA. And for those who don't know what FAMGA is, that's Facebook, Apple, Microsoft, Google, and Amazon are the big companies. And our presenter today is Lou Kerner with Crypto Oracle. He is going to tell us about how crypto is going to handle this quite a large challenge that we have in tech and in our society today. Before we get going, let's talk a little bit about the show. Here is sponsored by OmniSparks and Chicago Blockchain Project. OmniSparks is a platform for collaboration and community management for any crypto project out there. And Chicago Blockchain Project has a goal of building Chicago to be the blockchain capital of the world. Anybody who is interested in blockchain can go ahead and go to our website, chicagoblockchainproject.com, and see how you can participate, learn about blockchain, help somebody with a project, or build something with us. And from there, I'm going to go ahead and say hi to Lou. Lou, give us a wave.
All right.
Hi, Lou.
So, hey, Judy, I think we can... think everything's working now. So do you want to throw the screen over to me?
Yes, I'm throwing the screen over to you. Go ahead and share your screen.
All right. Okay. Let's see. And how's that?
Got it.
All right. Okay. Okay. So hi, everybody. And again, Lou Kerner with Crypto Oracle. And, real quick by way of background, I was a Wall Street analyst, and then I ran a couple internet companies, the second of which was a company called Bolt. And Bolt was the largest social network in the world before MySpace. I co-ran it from 2003 to 2006. We peaked at about 23 million kids. We did 8 acquisitions of smaller websites during that time. And we learned a lot about community. I was actually during that time, I was the first person to call Mark Zuckerberg and offer to buy Facebook a couple of weeks after he launched at Harvard. And I was saying, we learned a lot about community during that time. And I'll be going into some of those lessons a little bit later on. After I became after I ran Bolt, I became an angel investor, eventually opened up a small fund in 2012 called the Social Internet Fund, where I invested in companies that were leveraging social media or had some kind of social media aspect to them. And it was in June 29th, well, actually, it was while I was investing in that fund in 2013 that I first saw Bitcoin and started looking into it. And I joked that I went down the rabbit hole long enough that the Wall Street Journal wrote an article on Bitcoin, quoted me as Wall Street's Bitcoin expert. So that was cool. But, I spent about a year, I say, looking at the light. It was a lot dimmer then. It's still pretty dim, but a lot dimmer then. And after about a year, mid 2014, I kind of stopped thinking about Bitcoin much. And it wasn't until June of 2017 when ICOs started going crazy that I actually held a conference call so I could learn about ICOs. And on that conference call, somebody said something. I saw the crypto light, and I've been 24/7 crypto ever since. So it's coming up on 2 years now, and it's been an amazing 2 years. We started the company Crypto Oracle in November of 2017, and we raised a small amount in January of 2018 to launch a security token venture capital fund. And we made a few investments, but we spent the majority of the money we raised on kind of solving the technical, or trying to solve the technical and legal aspects of a security token VC offering. And after about a year of trying to solve those issues, we didn't solve them, and we were in the middle of crypto winter, and things were looking pretty bleak. But when we looked at what we had, since we had started the company, I had been focused on building the Crypto Oracle brand, And one of the things that we did in the Crypto Oracle community, and one of the things that we did early on in January of 2018, was we started something called Crypto Mondays as a meetup in New York. We had 300 people at the first one, January 8th, 2018. The next week we had 350 people. And it was just a meetup for people who were passionate about crypto to yap about crypto. It turns out when crypto is at 20,000, you get a lot more people at these meetups than when it's 3,000. But after we did after the second one in 18, we decided this was a great thing for the community, and we wanted to bring it throughout the world. And the second Crypto Monday city was Los Angeles at the end of January 2018, and today we're at 52 different cities. And so what we found that we had at Crypto Oracle was a number of these decentralized communities. And increasingly, we really felt that the communities were very central to everything that was going on. And so if you look at Crypto Oracle today, in addition to Crypto Mondays, and Judy, can you see my screen? Does it have the next slide on it?
Yes, it does. Looks good.
Okay, terrific. Just want to make sure that it's working. There you go. So, we have Crypto Mondays, 52 cities, Crypto Tuesdays for social good is in several cities. We do advisory work. Crypto Commons is our decentralized crypto shared workspace. We have meetups and have had conferences on token economics, and we really focus on building communities for ourselves, and then leveraging those communities to help other people grow their communities. And this presentation, is I think really frames community for me, and helps me explain to helps us explain to other people why community is so important. And the presentation starts. I start talking about FAMGA, which is a term that I first used in January of 2017. When I really became aware that the power that these companies had was becoming so dominant that it was really negative for the rest of the world in a lot of ways. And I thought that this was a really important piece, and I wrote a blog post. And anybody who blogs knows, you blog, you never know what the reaction was going to be. And the reaction to this blog post was pretty muted. And I thought it was pretty important, so I continued to gather information, and I kind of wrote a follow-up post about 3 months later about the profound implications of 5 increasingly dominant tech companies. And this quickly became the most read piece, the second most read piece, actually, that I had ever written. And the idea in this piece was that, if you took a look at kind of 10 years earlier at the biggest companies, U.S. companies by market cap, you saw that only one of the 5 was tech related, and that was Microsoft. And now, 10 years later, all 5 of the largest companies by market cap were all tech. And so there's really been a sea change in the economy. And if you take a look at those tech companies and how much they had grown their market cap relative to the 95 other companies in the NASDAQ 100, top 100 companies, what you saw was that these companies were growing their market cap dramatically faster than the rest of the companies in the NASDAQ 100. And as a result, if you took a look at the total market cap that these companies controlled relative to all the other companies, it was over 40% when I wrote this piece in April of 2017. And my view was that this had a lot of negative implications. And most importantly, it slows innovation. If you know that a market is going to be dominated by one of these big companies, you're just less likely as a VC to want to invest, in those areas. And so in those areas where these companies dominate, you're just seeing a lot less investment than you otherwise would. Obviously, these companies, is exacerbating the concentration in global wealth. And, also my view that basically, we're moving into a world where, oil or data is the new oil. And these companies dominate in their data aggregation. And as a result, as every market becomes a data market, every market is now adjacent to these companies. And so, you can see the market share, let's say, in public cloud. dominated by these companies. IBM is the only non-FAMGA company in the top 5, and the FAMGA companies are growing their market share of cloud faster than IBM is, and we're starting to see them in other areas as well, whether it's AR, VR, where they dominate, autonomous cars, where they are likely to dominate smart home hardware, even reusable rockets are being dominated by these companies because every market is adjacent to their core markets in a world where everything is data related. And when I wrote this piece in 2017, things were pretty bleak, I thought, and the only thing that gave me comfort was this slide. And this is a great slide. It's a few years old now, but it shows the total market cap by company of the top 100 tech companies by market cap. And so in 1980, IBM, when mainframes were dominant, had over 70% of all the tech market cap was IBM. And then as we transitioned from mainframe to desktop, Microsoft became the dominant company in terms of market share at 30% market share. And then as we transitioned from desktop to mobile, Apple became the largest company by market share, and they peaked at about 25%. And so, what this graph teaches me is there's nothing constant but change. And even though it looks like FAMGA is so dominant today, the past had shown that new technologies always come along, and the incumbents always struggle to dominate these new markets. And so, it was only a few months later, on June 29th, 2017, that I saw the crypto light, and I started feverishly writing. I was actually in a manic state for about 4 months, and at the end of just a month, I was one of the top 50 writers, bloggers on crypto on Medium, and then in October, I published a thought piece, which was the first piece that I wrote that was the most read crypto piece on Medium for 3 days, called 7 Thoughts on Crypto After 3 Months Down the Rabbit Hole. And my first thought was that nobody knows anything. And that's really my belief of where we are still here today, more than a year and a half later. We're still at the very, very, very beginning of this brand new industry, that I call crypto. And nobody really knows anything. Nobody knows what's going to happen, other than this is going to be, the biggest thing in the history of mankind, because every new technology is the biggest thing. Every new platform is the biggest thing because it's built on top of everything else. And so, this is really kind of a new computing age, the crypto era. And we define it, if you think of as really 5 technologies, blockchain, cryptocurrency, smart contracts, zero knowledge proof, that are enabling 4 technologies that are enabling decentralization. And and the core of this is community. And this is how we define crypto. And one of the latest pieces that I wrote is this coming epic battle between crypto and FAMGA. And what I mean by that is the impact of these technologies are going to be huge. And so in my mind, there's no doubt that blockchain is going to have a massive impact, that cryptocurrency. And when I say cryptocurrency, I'm just thinking of crypto. Mostly, there are some things that are like Bitcoin that are trying to be money, or Monero, Zcash, but most cryptocurrency we look at as just being like frequent flyer miles. It's just an incentivization mechanism used by the projects to get different members of the community to behave in ways that are beneficial for the community as a whole. And so, the impact of these technologies is going to be massive, and the amount of wealth creation is going to be unprecedented. And the big question in my mind is, when. Obviously, that's a big one. And then the second one is, who's going to capture that value? And that's where I see the coming epic battle between crypto and FAMGA being is it going to be the people on this call? My guess is there's nobody from Facebook, Apple, Microsoft, Google, or Amazon on this call. People on this call are people who are into crypto, people who are into communities. And so the question is this wealth mostly going to be captured by people like us who are crypto people 24/7, who are crypto native, or is the majority of the value going to be captured by FAMGA? I've continued to write about FAMGA, and I just wrote a piece earlier this week called "The Crypto Flippening is Coming, but Not the One You Think." Where I looked at the market cap of FAMGA and the market cap of crypto, and think that there's an opportunity for crypto to bypass. The crypto market cap today is about 245 billion. FAMGA today is around 3.5 trillion. And FAMGA, continues to grow its market share. This was as of, about 10 days ago. FAMGA's actually had a rough few days. It's down from 46%. But, when I wrote the story about 10 days ago, it was at an all-time high in terms of FAMGA's percentage of the market cap of the 100 largest companies since I started looking at it, as they continue to grow their market share faster than the rest of the market. And so if you're trying to think, okay, who's going to capture the value? Occam's razor would say that FAMGA is going to capture the majority of value created by crypto. And for those who don't know, Occam's razor is a great, great thing to understand. It was a monk, I think in like the 1400s, came up with it. And Occam's razor, just the idea that the most likely thing to have happened, or the most likely thing to happen, is probably the thing that happened or will happen. And so in this case, FAMGA has such, incredible dominance of the markets today. They have, such vast data that they're able to leverage, and large, large employee bases, and of really many of the smartest people in the world are working at FAMGA companies. And that's a massive, massive advantage that they have. And they all have massive user bases that they can continue to leverage. And so, if you just look at it on its face, you think, wow, who's going to win this? Is it going to be the crypto natives, or going to be FAMGA? I think most money would probably bet on the FAMGA people. And if you think about the major advantage that crypto has over FAMGA, it's community. Community is really the one thing that FAMGA doesn't have. Nobody gets up in the morning and says, who doesn't get paid by Facebook, gets up in the morning and says, I wonder how I'm going to make Facebook better today. But lots of people who are not getting paid directly by Bitcoin are wondering what they can do, to make Bitcoin better, including, I guess, everybody on this call. And so this is really why we are so focused on community. We think that the community is the central differentiating factor between crypto and everything that came before crypto. But from a community standpoint, we're at the very, very beginning of really understanding how to optimize the community. And and by the way, I've continued to to follow Facebook closely. I actually bought some secondary shares in 2010, and felt compelled to write a research report about it, because the world had no idea. It was trading actively in the secondary market at 16 billion. I thought at the time it was worth 50 billion. I published this in February of 2010, and my 2014 revenue estimate, I think was off by less than 1%. And that's because, it's my simple belief that, if you build a community, that's an engaged community. That's the important thing, is to build an engaged community. And Facebook, already by this time had built the largest, most engaged community in the history of mankind, and its engagement was continuing to climb quarter after quarter after quarter. And so it was really a remarkable company. And I actually stayed positive on Facebook for 8 years, and I went negative on Facebook in January 2018, because for the first time ever, their engagement went down. And it's my view, when engagement goes down in a community, that's the beginning of the end. It's almost impossible to turn that around. You either you grow your engagement, and then when you grow your engagement, you're dying. And it could be a long, slow death. Certainly it will be in Facebook's. And it was funny because the reason that they gave for the decrease in engagement for the first time, because they felt obviously that they had to make a comment on it. And the reason they said is because they were stopping people from doing the number one thing that people wanted to do on Facebook. And that was read fake news. And so, fake news was Facebook's friend until it wasn't. And so, so this is, call obviously is on community. And the way that we're looking at things, and what we're focused on, one is, is on the incentivization side, right? How do you provide value to the users of a community, to the community members? And in our view, what really makes a community, the real magic of a community, is that everybody gets more out of a community than they put in. And if you think about, the biggest communities, in the world, what do people get out of Facebook? Facebook obviously isn't paying them, but, a lot of people are getting things like status, right? So non-cash incentives. And we really believe that, that cash or cash-like incentives are going to play are going to have a big role in crypto, but we believe that the far bigger role is going to be in non-cash and cash-like incentives, things like status. At Bolt, we could get millions of kids to do anything by giving them a badge that would scroll around their profile, denoting status in the Bolt community. And we think status is going to have a big part in the crypto community as well as lots of other things, since we're in the very early stages of understanding non-cash incentives. That's why we're huge believers in NFTs. Again, NFTs are free to manufacture. They don't cost anything to manufacture, unlike cash, which costs a lot of money to give away. But NFTs are free, and people can obviously place massive values on NFTs. So we're big believers in NFTs and the potential they have to impact community behavior. And this whole idea of token economics, right, and how you incentivize community members to act in the best interest of the community. We're in the early days of it. We look forward to people graduating from the best schools in the world with PhDs in token economics. And the same thing for governance and consensus, right? We're in the very early stages of really understanding how all this is going to work, how DAOs are going to work. We love Bitcoin, even though its governance is pretty broken, because it doesn't have to evolve to be the world's best store of value. It already is. But most other things actually have to evolve to be things in the long run. And, we're at the early stages of governance and consensus. We're spending a lot of time in this area as well. And again, look forward to the smartest people in the world graduating from places like MIT or Carnegie Mellon or elsewhere around the world in governance and consensus. And at the end of the day, we believe, again, that communities are all about engagement. Obviously, it doesn't matter how many people you have, in your Discord group or your Telegram group or wherever, if they're not engaged. And so, we really think that, it's important for us as a community to be developing different engagement metrics so we can all, be talking, and using the same words and meaning the same things. And again, we're in the early stages of that, but that's what we're spending time on here at Crypto Oracle. These are the areas where we're really trying to drive thought leadership and really trying to, work with others in the community and move the dialogue forward. And if you think about kind of where we are, this is kind of the ARPANET in 1969, the predecessor to the internet. So, people didn't realize, the first email was sent in 1969. I didn't send my first email till I think it was 1994. So it took 25 years. So these things take time. There's a Stanford University professor who ran the Institute for the Future, Roy Amara, who coined Amara's law in the early 70s, which is we tend to overestimate the impact of these major tech breakthroughs in the short run and underestimate them in the long run. And so, that's why we got the massive bubble in crypto that we got last year. People think it's going to be huge tomorrow. And then when tomorrow comes, it's not huge, and people think it's not a thing. And then it ends up being bigger in the long run than anybody thinks it's going to be. And that's the path that we really seem to be on. and so again, it's early days. This market is so small, and again, nobody knows anything. But we're out there developing our decentralized communities, trying to drive thought leadership, continuing to invest in crypto. Crypto Mondays is now in, as I said, in 52 cities. Crypto Mondays Milan was the last one to start, and so we look forward to continuing to grow Crypto Mondays. And doing whatever we can so that in the coming epic battle between crypto and FAMGA, we will have the right community tools to leverage the major advantage that we have of community so that we can capture the value and not just have it be another thing that's controlled, dominated by FAMGA. And we know how that works out for the world. And so, that's the formal part of my presentation is over. Judy, put it back to you.
Hi, thanks, Lou. That was really interesting. Question for you. So the reason FAMGA, the market cap, fell this week or recently is because the Congress has decided that they need to start regulating this group of companies. If you were in Congress, what would you suggest that they should do?
Look, this is an incredibly hard question, obviously. When we were running Bolt, we were dealing with a lot of the same issues that Facebook is dealing with now. And, the overriding case law back then was that, you don't want to get in the middle of it. You don't want to say what's truthful and what's not truthful. That the actual prevailing case law, had to do with postings at a supermarket. That the supermarket wasn't responsible unless they, were somehow going through the postings and taking some down and curating the postings. And so, I appreciate where they are. What's super interesting is that, the way that our monopoly laws are written here in the United States is the monopolies are all about laws come into effect when there's harm to the consumer. And so the reason why they've had more difficulties, these companies outside the U.S. is because they don't just look at the consumers, but they also look at competition. And so now, the scary part for these companies is now they're saying they're going to look at the impact on competition, which is a whole new way to look at it. We really don't have even the laws, so I don't know whether the Congress is going to, plans on passing new laws to do this, but this is not going to be solved in a day or a week or a month or a year. I'm not sure this is ever going to be solved. And when you look at the history of coming after tech monopolies like this, they've got a very poor track record. The last, and they generally tend to come, when the horses have already left the barn.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Is the government behind? Let's say crypto, new technology is coming. Is the government? Do you think the government's just behind? And the tech, maybe they shouldn't be regulating or pushing as hard to regulate these companies.
Sure. Look, the obviously crypto is infinite, and so we really at Crypto Oracle really choose to spend our time on the areas where we think we can have an impact. So we're not spending a lot of time, on the regulatory market. We appreciate the great work that a lot of other people are. Our view is very macro on the regulatory front. We really think that regulators, wherever they are, have two choices. They can roll out the red tape, or they can roll out the red carpet. And they roll out the red tape at their own peril because the genie's left the bottle. And this is happening, and we're already seeing in the United States, some really smart people are leaving the country and going elsewhere that has a more accommodating regulatory environment.
Yeah. I have a question for you here, Lou. You actually intrigued me here with what you said just then about it being infinite. Crypto's infinite. And one of the things that's interesting about how you present this argument is about a crypto overall attacking the entire market share of FAMGA. And usually when you hear people talk about what crypto's effect is going to be, they start to talk about self-sovereign identity, owning your own data, things like this that are more bottom up, which a lot of them are flawed in themselves in the mechanism. I've been interested in this data as labor movement rather than just straight owning your data outright yourself. And I don't think anybody has an answer for it, but from the meta level, it seems that being able to attack from an overall market share of what people's attention is spent on and where value is actually created is a much better way to look at how you would approach the problem.
Would approach the problem of the monopoly power?
Yes, yes. Like really taking it back. It kind of stems from something I had seen Chamath, I can't say his last name, that runs Social Capital.
There's only one Chamath.
Yep, exactly. So he said at a Stanford talk, they said like, well, what is your advice on saving the world? He was like, get the money. Just get the money, and then you can save the world however you want to save it. He's like, I want to be at the table with those other people who are controlling what's going on. And so this kind of approach of saying, how do we do this is not, all right, Lou, we're going to let you own your own data and you can decide whenever you can use it. Sure, that might be a part of the solution. There is so much market share and value that's created in the world and all the world's economies. Can we go and get that market share from these companies that are abusing it? And it's an infinite game, so the more sustainable thing would be anything other than monopoly power, right?
Well, look, I don't think that these are bad people or that they're bad companies. I think they're great capitalists, and we're practicing, capitalism in such a way that allows this kind of power to be aggregated. And I think that again, looking at these technologies as a new computing platform, and what new computing platforms enable are new business processes that were never possible before. Right before the internet, you couldn't have Amazon, obviously. And again, we're at the very, very early stages. Obviously, the business process that has everybody so incredibly excited is decentral. We can have decentralized organizations. Right, we could never have had those before, and maybe it'll turn out that is the massive biggest thing that happens. But my guess is there are going to be dozens or hundreds or thousands of business processes that are enabled by all these new technologies that are just going to have a massive global impact and wealth creation.
So we have a question. Your definition of crypto is very inclusive. So you include NFTs, you include utility tokens, security tokens, which is a good way to describe it. But it's common for a lot of people to think of crypto as cryptocurrency, which has, which is different than the broad description. And what are your thoughts on the community finding a way to speak the same language?
Look, that's a great question, and obviously very important. But this is, our view is this isn't something that's different and has never happened before. This is just the newest thing. And new things come along all the time. And at first they're very scary and everybody thinks they're so different than everything else. And then over time, they kind of end up being just like everything else. And so, that's what we think this will just be, the newest thing. And, and nomenclature is a big problem, right? We all use words and they mean different things to us, the same exact words. And that just gets worked out over time as industries mature.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Lou. We really appreciate your time. And it was very interesting. And we're going to sign off for now. This is Judy Gordon from OmniSparks. And hopefully we'll see you all at Voice of Blockchain at the end of September. Thank you.
Thank you.